The human brain has this really weird quirk, which is called by biologists negativity bias. So from a survival perspective, the human brain is actually wired to always focus on what it could potentially lose or what could damage it. There was actually a study that showed that people's brains exhibited more emotional reaction to losing $100 versus finding $100 on the side of the road. The brain reacted 100% more, so twice as much to losing $100 than it did to actually finding $100. This is because biologically we are wired to focus on the negative, to focus on what's wrong, to focus on what might go wrong, what might not work. Okay? This makes a lot of sense from an evolutionary perspective, because if you're a caveman, let's say, and you're turning a corner, you're gonna think, is there a tiger around that corner? It's gonna be more important that there isn't a tiger around that corner versus if there's like a fruit tree where you can get some food for free. If you don't get that food, that's not a big deal because you're not gonna die instantly. But if there's a tiger around that corner, you're fucked. Okay, you're dead. So our evolutionary biology has wired us to focus on the negative. The problem is, what I learned from the book Reality Transurfing, one second, let me set this up here. What I learned from the book Reality Transurfing and from the writings of the Russian author Vadim Zeland, he's like a quantum physicist or something, very powerful stuff. What he said is that as a human being gets older, and specifically as they get into their 20s, the general trend of happiness in their life starts to go downhill. And I wanted to tell you a story about how this was happening to me today, and I wanted to share with you the solution that I found. But I want you to actually realize that because of this negativity bias in the human brain, this survival programming where we're always focusing on what could go wrong, what won't work, what could make us lose money, what could make us lose our relationship. So we have this survival-based habit. It's not even like a personal thing. It's just like, it's a species-wide thing. You could almost say it's like a genetic thing or something. We just have this habit to like focus on what isn't gonna work, because that systemically actually helps to benefit our survival in a wild sort of era, right? But the thing is, the way society is changing is that we don't really need to have that animalistic programming running our entire lives. And what Vadim Zeland says is, what happens is when you allow this programming to sort of dictate your entire life and you're just always focusing on what's wrong, you're reacting to what's bothering you in your life, right? Oh my God, he said this, she said this, he's pissing me off, you know, that didn't work, this guy's an idiot, right? So you're just focusing on what you don't like in your life and you're just continually giving that energy. What happens, Vadim Zeland says, is that you shift to a negative timeline. So reality transurfing is this theory which has been very life-transforming for me and for many people. This idea that it's rooted in quantum physics, where there's this infinite alternatives space. There's many different potential ways that your life could unfold. This is rooted in quantum physics. You know, a lot of people don't like this idea because it seems unscientific, but there's this idea that it's not that it's unscientific, it's just kind of how reality works. And ultimately it doesn't matter, because it can just be an analogy, and even if it's just an analogy, it'll still work for you practically to shift from a negative timeline onto a positive timeline. So a negative timeline is like, everything's not going your way, you're pissed off, you're frustrated, you're confused, you don't know what to do, things aren't working, you're scared all the time, the dog is barking and he's pissing you off, and you ran out of money for cigarettes, you know, this horrible sort of annoying life. It's actually pretty easy to shift to a lifeline or a timeline where it's like feels like a continual vacation where things are fun, everything's unfolding positively. It feels like the opportunities you need come to you. You're meeting interesting people. It's just a good time. It's a good day. You're having a good day every day, right? So how do we do this? It's actually very simple, but I'm going to tell you the story of what happened to me so you can really relate to it. So this was on Friday. So I live with my parents, and on Friday I was going to sleep, and I was falling asleep in this like peaceful, beautiful state of mind, just like, I had just meditated, right? So I was just falling asleep so beautifully. And my parents came home they were hanging out at their friend's house, and they were very loud, very loud. Like my mom, I think she saw a bug somewhere in the house, and she screamed, and my parents were just very loud, like stomping around, making tons of noise. This was 1 a.m, right? It totally woke me up. I was like just about to fall asleep, right? And then I just kind of got yanked out of it, and I was so angry. I was so pissed off. So I actually reacted so much to this negative input that I started planning an entire scheme of like how I'm gonna move out. And I actually had a plan where I could go volunteer at this meditation center and just basically go live there for a bit and then work on making money and then like, move into some place somewhere, right? So I was just scheming, this whole plan. And then this wasn't really like an authentic plan. It was more so I was planning and scheming out of reaction because I was so focused on this negative event, and I allowed this negative event to really like affect me, right? I think that's my friend over there. I have no idea. There's this guy just stopped staring at me. So I allowed this negative event to affect me. And what this did is actually shifted me onto a negative lifeline. For the next few days, I was like furious at my life situation. I was like a little bit more angry at my parents. I was like a little bit more rude to them. And I was just kind of like avoidant of them. And I was just sort of like kind of an asshole. And then I found that they actually started to become even more annoying, and they started to poke me more because I was being annoying, right? I was being annoyed. So when you're not in a positive energy, reality has a way to like make you feel even worse, right? So the whole concept from reality transurfing is that reality is like a mirror, right? So if you're focusing on the negative, it will mirror the negative back to you because reality just is like a boomerang. What you throw comes back to you. What the energy you put out is what comes back to you. So it was a few days. I was, scheming and planning. I actually applied to volunteer at this meditation center, and I, I thought it was a good idea, but it didn't like feel fully aligned in my heart. And I could tell because I was just very lost, very like on the fence. I didn't know what to do. It's just like lost, confused, on the fence. I wasn't really feeling good about it. And it wasn't until today I saw this great video on YouTube of this dude who is also talking about reality transurfing. So I clicked on it because I love reality transurfing, and he gave me this amazing insight that I wanted to share with you today. I'll link his video in the description. His name was Bootsy Greenwood or something like that. I'll link his video. It's a great video. You should watch it. It's actually a great summary of reality transurfing. So you go watch his video. It's awesome. It helped me, so that's why I'm sharing. So what he said in his video, this dude, he's standing on the beach, there's tons of people around, right? He explained this idea of negativity bias in a way that I didn't fully understand until he said it, and then it clicked for me like, oh my God, that's exactly what I was doing. I was literally focusing on all the negative outcomes. And what he told me that I realized is like, in order to shift onto a positive lifeline, you have to make it an actual habit. You need to consciously, purposefully, on purpose, not by accident, you need to actually put your energy and your attention on the positive aspects of your life, because automatically, if you go on autopilot, what is going to happen is you're going to naturally shift onto a negative script or a negative lifeline because of the survival systems that are in your brain and in your biology. They're almost designed to, over time, shift you onto a negative script, because negativity bias actually perpetuates survival in a caveman setting, okay? But we don't live in a caveman setting anymore. So living a positive life, right, living on a positive lifeline actually requires to take control over your attention and to point it to the aspects of your life that you like and that are going well. So what Vadim Zeland says, and I like the way this dude Bootsy Greenwood said in his school community, I joined, you know, I really like school communities. I have my own, by the way, if you wanted to join. Shameless plug. So what they're talking about is, they say this things like, you should be greedy with counting your wins. You should consciously be counting your wins. When something goes well, you should actually like pause and notice that, oh my God, it's going well. Like, for example, these trees are gorgeous. You know, like, I'm so lucky that I live in a reality where we have like this gigantic tree. It's amazing. You know, like, wow, right? Look at this one. I think this is a red pine or a white pine. Like, oh my God, like, phenomenal. They're doing a great job of growing. Good job. Another win is this video that I'm making. This video is a big W, a big win. I love this video right now. Okay, so, and there's a lot of things that happened to me today that was a big win. Like, for example, I went to the bookstore. I was a little lost. I just told myself, okay, what can I do to just have fun and enjoy my life, sort of thing. I went to the bookstore, was reading some books about business, and through this process, I actually gained some good ideas that I needed that actually gave me insights for my life purpose. So what I did was I implemented Bootsy's plan. I think that's his actual name. I'm not sure. So I implemented this plan of, I started focusing on the positive stuff. So I actually started counting my wins. Like, oh, actually, I'm really glad that I live at my parents' house, because we have a beautiful garden in our backyard, and my dad tends to the garden, and we eat amazing like tomatoes and herbs and peppers and stuff. We were making hot peppers and stuff. It's amazing. My mom cooks and she's awesome, and I live with my brother and sister as well, and they're younger than me, so it's actually really nice that I can spend time with them, because like, they're younger than me, and you know, like, how much time am I going to get to like spend time with my family, you know, as I get older and, you know, become more successful in my life. I won't have all that time to like spend time, you know. So it's nice to be able to see my sister, my brother, and, you know, we have a nice house and it's a nice area, and, you know, I can relax. So there's just so many positive aspects to my current situation. What happens when you focus on the negative aspects of your current situation? You focus on the negatives of your relationship, the negatives of your wife or your husband, the negatives of your business, the negatives of your neighborhood, of your living situation. You focus on the negatives of your body, of your health. You focus on the negatives of your personality and your character, right? When you focus on the negatives, literally what happens is your energy, your aura starts to give out a vibration of resistance. It weakens you. It lowers your energy. It lowers your aura, because there's so much resistance that's going on. Because the truth is that reality is really awesome. Okay? Reality is really awesome. Your life is really awesome. And life is taking care of you right now. And reality is taking care of you. There's a quote from Reality Transurfing. Something you should say to yourself multiple times throughout the day is that my reality takes care of me. Right? To have that general attitude in all circumstances. all right? Reality's awesome, guys. Look, there's like a beautiful blue sky, you know, there's trees, you know, everything's okay. You know, we got the internet, there's so many opportunities to make money, to start movements, to benefit the world. We live in an awesome time. We have excellent technology. You know, it's a good time on earth, okay? Good, it's a good time, great time to be alive. The best time to be alive is right now, actually. There's so much opportunity, okay? So think about all the examples that this applies to, like the economy, for example. People, they focus on, oh, the economy's not doing well. Actually, you know, the economy, you know, no one can afford anything. You know, inflation, you know, the housing prices, it's a common sentiment in Ontario, which is where I live, which is why many people my age are living with their parents, because the pricing of housing is like, it's pretty high. But at the same time, I know people who just only focus on that and it gets them depressed, whereas you can also focus on the fact that it's so awesome that there's so much opportunity in the online marketplace to basically do whatever you want and your passion, and you can create some sort of business around that. You can help people around the world. There's so much opportunity to learn stuff from the internet for free. The amount of information you can learn, you know, these books, these seminars, you know, these teachers, these coaches, these leaders, scientists, you know, psychologists, and philosophers, just giving free talks, you know, online on YouTube, and you know, you can talk to them in many cases, right? So this is like phenomenal. So there's so much opportunity, is what I'm saying, and it's really beautiful. So to apply what I'm saying, this is what you do. So many times throughout the day, whenever something goes remotely well for you, you pause and you catch it. In the book Tufty the Priestess, which is Vadim Zeland's book, he talks about greedy catchers. You actually, when something goes well, you catch it and you confirm that your life is going well. So this is the difference between an affirmation and a confirmation. An affirmation is like when you're affirming something, like I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, and you're just kind of saying it over and over again. That's like an affirmation. That can work, okay? That's all right, especially if you couple it with visualization and feeling. If you feel beautiful and you say it and you really feel it in your body and you visualize yourself being beautiful as you say it, that can work very well. But what works also very well is this idea of confirmation. So you're not affirming something that hasn't happened. It's like, imagine you look in the mirror, let's say you put on a nice outfit, all right? And you look in the mirror and you're like, damn, and there's a confirmation there. You actually pause and confirm, see, I actually am beautiful. Because like I actually got evidence from reality. I actually am beautiful. So for example, someone pays you money in your business. See, my business is profitable. I am making money from my business, right? So you actually have to pause. So this is so funny. Many times when, let's say you're an entrepreneur, sometimes it's stressful, right? You're making money, but you can get so caught up in like all the things that are wrong with your business that you forget to just pause and confirm all the things that are going well in your business, to focus your attention on what's going well. See, I do have awesome customers that are very kind and considerate and pay me well. Or when you're in a relationship, right? And your boyfriend, well, why do I always give examples for women? your boyfriend, let's do an example let's do an example for a man. So your girlfriend cooks an amazing meal. See, I do have an awesome girlfriend, or you know, she's very beautiful that day or whatever. You confirm it, right? You know, what was the boyfriend example I was gonna say? Yeah, I forget. So that's the difference between an affirmation and a confirmation. And this is something you can actually apply in your life. So another principle I wanted to add as a bonus, because I wanted to install the habit of doing more than asked for. So I only promised one insight today, but here's a bonus insight for you, is that in addition to this, another thing you can apply is what's called the advantage method. So the advantage method is whenever something goes wrong, you look to the positive side of it and you assume something good is going to come out of it. So the whole point of reality transurfing in a nutshell is to like continually put out a positive vibration that comes from focusing on what's good in your life and what you want more of and what you like, right? So having fun, enjoying your life, not being so stingy and attached to things, dropping importance, making things less important. In order for me to even film this video right now, I had to make it less important. Like, it's not a big deal because I was getting a little nervous before even pressing record. So I had to take my camera, I had to walk around a little bit and, you know, just get into the flow, make it, you know, it's not that important, it's not a big deal. If it goes well, doesn't go well, doesn't matter. So now I'm in the flow. Now I just yap and it's fine. Okay? So reducing importance is important. But I was talking about the advantage method. So this means looking to the positive side of every situation. For example, a few months ago, I went on this cleaning spree. It was I want to make a video about it. I was using Marie Kondo's cleaning method from her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I'm going to make a whole video about that because that's a powerful, powerful book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. So I went on a cleaning spree, took like 10 days. And in this process, I ended up getting rid of some of my favorite books. I don't know why. I just thought I should get rid of it. I don't know, right? So today I was looking for this book and I realized I gave it away. And I was kind of pissed off at myself. I was like, fuck, you know, I wish I didn't give that thing away because I would have liked to read it right now. So in that moment, I could have got stressed and I could have focused on the negative and I could have felt lacking around it, like, oh my God, this book, it was an expensive book. It was like $70 or something. And I had underlined in it a lot. So it was like a valuable book. It was a hardcover edition, right? So I was like a little bit sad that I could have just been pissed off that I missed this opportunity or that I let go of this book. But instead, I actually caught myself and I used the advantage method and I realized, well, you know what, there must be some higher purpose to this negative event, you know, missing this book. Maybe I didn't need that book after all. Maybe not having the book actually will push me to take action without the book. And maybe it's better because maybe the book was going to be a distraction or maybe it was going to derail me in some way. So not having it, there's some ordained, purposed, positive reason why I got rid of it. Even though right now I'm a little pissed off about it, I'm just going to trust that there's like a positive reason. And I actually notice my nervous system actually relax. And actually this is like trusting God or trusting the universe. You know what, there's a positive reason why I got rid of this book. Maybe I'll just buy it again. You know, like not the biggest deal in the whole world. Maybe I'm actually meant to buy it again. Maybe I'll get, you know, the expanded edition or something, right? Or it's not a big deal is the point, and there's a positive reason why. If only that I had a good example to use in my video today, right? So that's a positive reason. Okay? So this is a very clever and a very powerful way to keep your mind focused on the positive. So again, to recap, the human mind has a tendency to focus on the negative because of biology, okay? It's not because you're a bad person, it's because evolutionary pressures have literally pressured your ancestors and thereby you to have a negativity bias so that when you turn a corner, you're more scared of there not being a tiger than you are excited about the possibility of there being fruits. Okay, because the tiger is more dangerous than not eating for a little while. That's actually why. You can survive not eating for a little while. You can't survive a tiger's teeth in your neck. Okay? So due to negativity bias, what happens is as the human being gets older, what happens around the age of 25, the brain starts to like stop, not that it stops changing, the brain is always changing and it's always creating new connections throughout the person's whole life, but the brain stops growing around the age of 25. Now, I actually don't know how accurate this science is, but this is like the mainstream science. I'm very skeptical of a lot of mainstream science, but this is like the mainstream narrative that the brain stops growing around the age of 25, and this is when the brain reaches adult development, okay? I haven't looked into the studies of that. Allegedly, that's true. That's hearsay, okay? I've heard that from somewhere. So what happens is, let's use this theory. Let's assume this is true. I think it's true. There's a lot of science around it, okay? I haven't looked into it, but this kind of makes sense, okay? So when the brain reaches adulthood or in the 20s, what happens is it sort of locks in place and a lot of your habits start to become more entrenched. This is kind of what makes adults in general a little bit less happy than kids, you know, because they're always worried. You know, they're worried about the bills, you know, all the bad things that are going to happen, the bills, the tiger around the corner. You have to protect the kids from, you know, not jumping off cliffs and, you know, not getting bitten by snakes and so forth, right? So the negativity bias starts to set in when you become older, and then this switches you onto a negative lifeline. And the general trend of a human life, without using any sort of positive focus, if you just kind of go with the flow, if you let the script carry you, and you just sort of, you don't take your attention into your own hands, but you just sort of let other people's agendas sort of just like run you, and you're not really consciously living or consciously creating your life, or learning or expanding your mind, or learning new perspectives, or meditating, or having more awareness, right? Having more control over your focus. If you don't do that, what happens, the general trend is down. Okay? And then you become 80 years old and your body's stiff and tight and you're just an old curmudgeon and you hate everyone. And you're pissed off at reality and the new generation and, you know, all this, right? You know, you hate your life basically. In your dusty old house and you're all by yourself because no one wants to be around you because you have a negative energy field, right? You keep throwing out negative boomerangs and they keep hitting you in the back of the head, and you keep complaining and blaming the politics, or you blame the economy, or you blame your ex-wife, or you blame, you know, your boss or whatever it is, right? But you're the one who's throwing the boomerangs. That's why they're hitting you. It's like spitting in the wind and getting mad at the wind, right? This is what we do in life. We spit in the wind, and then when we get hit in the back of the head with a loogie, we say, "Who spit on me?" And you get pissed off, right? You're trying to go find, you know, the person who ruined your life, right? But it was you. So instead, what we talked about in this video is intentionally, consciously counting your wins. How can you count your wins? Confirming the fact that you're doing well in your life and that you have what you want and that you're going in a positive direction. Your life is already like a continual vacation. And wow, I'm so glad I get to enjoy this awesome video. I'm so glad I get to enjoy the beautiful weather. And, you know, I'm glad I live in a nice country. I'm glad about my relationship, or I'm glad about something. I'm glad I have a body, at the very least. I'm glad my body exists, right? So counting your wins, when anything goes well, this actually requires practice, because again, the negativity bias is a habit. So like with all habits, you need to rewire your mind through repetition and through practice, okay? So continue doing this. If you want to stay consistent and stay accountable, you can come join my free school community, where there's people just like yourself who work on these sorts of things, personal development and transurfing, and there's many people in that community interested in transurfing. So if you want people to be around to keep you accountable, we'll count our wins together, sort of thing. We'll do a weekly win sharing, okay, if you're interested in that. There's some free resources in there for you as well, like my book list. There's 140 of my favorite books that have expanded my mind and helped to transform my life. You can check that out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.